So guys, you can see in front of me we've got an Astra Gsi turbo here that's been in a front end accident. You can see quite a bit of damage. I've pulled the wing off already so I can see behind there. I've checked all the chassis legs, everything, make sure it's all straight. Took measurements on my other car. So as I'm prepared to repair this one, as it's a totally rust-free car, low mileage, low owner car, too many of these getting broken, you can join me along the way and watch me repair this car. So first up, I'm going to start tearing down the car. Now, the most important part to me was these chassis legs weren't damaged. I've done loads of measurements off my other car and the chassis legs are perfectly straight, otherwise I would strip this car completely. It didn't take the impact around the bottom part of the car. You can see the intercoolers took no damage at all. The impact wasn't low down, it was a high up impact, which is why it done so much damage. You can see the impact was around the bonnet area and the headlight area, which destroyed it. Also the wing was destroyed. You can see the inner wings destroyed. All that's going to be replaced with GM items, and so we're going to just start tearing this down now, get rid of all the bits that we don't need in there. You can see this brace in here has all been bent back, but you can see these braces are really weak. They're designed to do that. They've got the crumple areas in there. See here, obviously the chassis legs didn't take any of the impact at all. I've cut this slam panel so I can get under this bonnet, and you can see under here there's quite a bit of damage. Now I'll run you around what the damage was, and most of this inside here was down to the battery. I've just banged a new ECU in it because that was destroyed, but you can see all in here is all torn away. The battery exploded basically on impact and leaked all its acid all over the place, split some lines, split a bit of loom. But we're going to start tearing this down, get rid of all these bits so we can get to the inner wing, and we're going to separate the inner wing, the spot welds. I'm going to pull the whole lot out. We're going to replace the whole headlight assembly. It's all in one panel basically on these cars. You'll see it when it comes in, but we're going to get to stripping this down now and prepping it for the new parts. This is a different ECU because the old ECU was smashed to pieces. Just wanted to see if the engine was running, so we'll start that up and just show you that the engine runs perfectly still. And you can see it's done a lot of damage to the wiring and a load of brackets and nothing that can't be sorted. You can see the car still starts up, runs. This slam panel that comes with a new part, it basically comes all the way around here, replaces all this inner wing up here, comes around here, the slam panel, it replaces all this inner wing section up here, the headlight assembly section, all in one panel. And then we replace this inner wing brace. You can see here is all kinked up. That all comes out as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to cut that here and join it in, or if I'm going to replace the whole lot. I'll decide as I go along. So basically what we're going to do now is going to get all this wiring loom out of the way, strip it all down so we've got a nice clear area to get to the spot welds. Then we can start replacing and removing all them panels out of the way. The bonnet up here, you can see the brackets for the bonnet here all twisted up, so they're going to have to be replaced on both sides, this side and this side, but they're a sacrificial item in a crash. Right, so I've just stuck a battery on the car just so that I can show you the engine runs perfectly and everything before I take it all apart, because once it's obviously taken apart and I took all the wiring loom and everything out, I won't be able to restart it for a while. Now that lot's out of the way, the radiator, intercooler, etc. So you can see I've just cut this slam panel off there because I don't know what I'm doing with this section yet until I get the new panel in. Didn't want to remove too much in case I would decide to change my mind and join it, because you can get panels that actually join in here, so you don't have to remove this whole light pod here actually from GM. But I'm probably going to get a complete unit and decide what I'm going to do with this section here, because there's no damage to that. Now we've got to get rid of this loom out this inner wing, because I've got to get to this inner wing. There's actually not a ton left in here because it's all been pushed back, you can see, up to about here. So once I get this loom and everything out of the way, you'll see the damage a little bit better. So one of the little difficulties up here is because this panel has been pushed up so much, you can see here it's kind of trapped the wiring on this inner wing that goes through here to the indicators. So that's going to be the only problem I'm going to have. You can see I've removed the washer bottle out of there. That was trapped down in between that hole there. You can see that's where the washer bottle neck comes through. And also pulled out the wheel lining as well because that was in the way. So this washer bottle, because it had been pushed so far back, it was actually rubbing on the wheel. So that's knackered. You can see all the actual pump and everything snapped up. Probably pull that sensor out of there because that's the sensor for the low fluid level. We're going to probably cut that along here for now, drill all the spot welds out, and then decide what I'm doing with this brace. I can find a brand new brace for that. So one of the reasons I want to save this car, as you can see, it's a really low mileage genuine car. You can see on the side bolsters there's no wear on the seats. The steering wheel's pretty much mint. Inside's lovely, the interior's lovely, and you can see the mileage it's done. 67,500, so that's done really nothing at all, you know, 20-year-old car, whatever, done pretty much no miles. It just deserves to be saved. A lot of these get broken because they're getting rusty now, because a lot of people don't look after them. The rust normally happens around here, inside this filler cap. There's absolutely no rust in here. I've pulled this whole rubber out. I will pull it out in a minute. It's too hard to do it one-handed. Also, absolutely no rust around these arches. So this side as well, you can see up here there's absolutely no rust on these arches at all. You can see there's not even a speck of rust on this on both arches, and it's one of the reasons I want to save this car, because it's a totally rust free car. If you look underneath the car as well, there's no rust anywhere. And a lot of these cars, they're getting broken and stripped for parts because they are worth a lot of money in parts. You can see how straight this car is as well down the sides. Literally not a dent or a ding in the thing. It'd be a real shame to strip it, basically. There's no reason to do it. You know, it's quite an easy repair. They get done to modern cars all the time. A lot of people just get lazy. You can see this side as well. There's no dings, no dents. It's perfectly straight. Right, so when it comes to chassis leg measurements, I took all the measurements off of this car, which is obviously a totally uncrashed car, and I measured inside of the chassis legs, outside of the chassis legs. I measured from the studs, I measured all along the insides, and I've also checked for any sort of damage in here. So measurements are absolutely spot on. It was one of the reasons that I decided to do the car. If there was any sort of damage to that chassis legs, I wouldn't have bothered. Even though they can be repaired on a jig, I wouldn't have bothered doing it. Right, I'm going to show you the main measurement on this chassis leg. It's a little bit difficult one-handed, but I'm going to go to the end of the stud, and it's the main chassis leg stud. This is the one that's the strong part of the chassis leg for the crash panel. So you can see there's 100 there, there's 6 there, and then it's 0.5 of a centimetre, so 5 millimetres. So we're going down to the millimetres, and it's outside of that stud. So you can see it there, 6, and the outside of that stud is 5 millimetres. So I'm going to show you that on the red GSI. I'm going to do the same on this car. I'm going to show you it down to the millimetre again, so you can see the outside of the stud. Difficult because I've got the big intercooler in the way. 100, and then the 6, and then the outside of the stud is the 0.5. So you can tell it wouldn't take a lot to push that chassis leg in. And if you look here at the chassis leg over here, there's actually no damage to it all. So this deflection here, this is supposed to be in here, and it's on the other side as well. You can see it, and basically it's designed so this chassis leg crumbles in, and it wouldn't take a lot to push that chassis leg in at all, and it hasn't moved a bit. You would see like there'd be paint cracking down here, there'd be paint cracking down there. I've measured the inside and the outside of the chassis leg. Everything's spot on. So you can see the exact same thing in there, that bulge that comes out, and it's on that side too. Right, so with the inner loom all stripped away from there, obviously that's all going to be pulled out as well in the future, but I just want to get to this now to start pulling all this extra material metal out. You can see this chassis leg, and you can see what actually happened with the battery. So this is what's left of the battery tray that it just basically exploded, and you can see all the acid and everything that's come out of the battery. That normally sits around there. I've actually got a battery tray to show you. So that would normally sit around about, where is it? Around about there. Inside the engine bay, you can see there. Now what's happened is, when it got hit this way, the battery has just come completely off of its battery tray, and then it slid along the chassis leg, and it done a load of damage up here to the plastics, and you can see here it's cracked a lot of stuff. It smashed the sensor as well on the ABS pump. I've got all spares of that, there's no problem at all. All this is intact, so that's all good. And a lot of people that, you know, haven't experienced crash repairs before, they'd think, oh, that's a lot of damage. But this material and this metal is so flimsy. You can see I can just bend it and twist it with my hand. Now, if you think of a crash impact, they're quite aggressive. It wouldn't take much in an impact to just fold this up like a tin can, like it has. And it's basically what it's designed to do. As I say, it's got all these crumple zones and everything in here. So what we're going to start doing now is getting rid of this seam sealer, drill all these spot welds out, and get this whole inner wing section out. You can see with the seam sealer removed, the spot welds that we've got to remove along here, 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 and you can see the panel lip a little bit better here, here, up here, along here, and then there's ones that go up here and then they join to this chassis brace, so you separate it along here. So I've got a selection of drill bits. What I normally do is put a little punch in the middle of the hole, the middle of the spot weld, put a little pilot hole through, and then I use this spot weld drill bit. You can see here's a cobalt one. You can see it's like very similar to a drill bit, but it's got a flatter end, and that means it doesn't drill all the way through both metals. So to make this easier, because it's getting in my way, and you can see a little bit more clearly now where the battery's trajectile has literally come back and hit this ABS bracket, and you can see here, split it, smashed the sensor off. I've got a new ABS pump, but I can just replace that sensor. I've got a new bracket and everything, so you can see all the bracket and everything's bent back. I'm going to remove this whole loom out of here because it's getting on my nerves, but to do that I've got to get the pump off. The pump has to come off anyway to replace this bracket, so it's a no-brainer. I'm going to strip all that lot off, and then I'll have a lot more room in this inner wing. So that's a little bit cleaner with all the loom and everything out of the way. You can see where the battery obviously squashed this water pipe as well and split that. The bracket's all off for the ABS unit now. You can see I've unbolted the loom from the back there. It bolts up against that bulkhead, and we've got a nice clear area to work in now. Right, there you go. As you just see, removed that whole panel out of there. You can see how much better that looks with it gone. Got this little headlight section to remove. This bit split off the old section, and just got to remove that off the edge of the chassis leg. Got to dolly this little lip here. That's where the new panel is going to attach to, and you can see that lip up there is good. I've just started messing around with the battery tray brace, you can see here, and I'm going to attempt to put in the battery tray, make sure that all lines up perfectly. You can see how flimsy these panels are. They've literally got no strength in them at all. I've just removed the 2 spot welds, 3 spot welds up here. Got 2 more around the side. You can see that's why they fold up like they do. So this is all we had to remove from the car. You can see it's proper crumpled up mess, but it's really flexible, really no strength in it at all. You can see I just bend it with my hands, so any little impact's just going to crush that lot up. Waiting for the new panels to come. Right, with that last little bit down here removed, I wanted to make sure that this battery tray all lined up. So you can see that's just some marks from the crowbar where I've been moving it around, moving the bracket, shaping it. I just wanted to make sure all this would fit properly before I started prepping the chassis. And you can see here we've got 3 bolts, and the battery tray sits on there perfectly now. Absolutely spot on fitment. So that's all nice and straight, everything's good here. So we're just waiting for this panel to go in here now, and I'm going to start prepping up all this chassis leg area, cleaning up all the engine bay because it's a right mess. So join me on the next episode where we'll start putting this thing back together.